All right, well, don't underestimate Riddle, and they're jumping into our matchup against Vanir. So let's start talking about it a little bit then. Trouble, what was your kind of first feelings on this Riddle roster?
Honestly, there was a huge shake-up, right? Because Don Banida mentioned it as well. They needed to play with a sub ADC, then they needed to play with a sub top laner, then their actual top laner was lane, but place, and Vladi has stepped into the mid lane. Kehvo is down in the bot lane. In together. One of my prizes about Riddle was stepping in and out Stefan as a jungler. Then, I'm looking way back in the day, in Eclectic of Dreams.
Okay.
We need a microphone apparently.
Wait, to Goldberg. Goldberg, I'll jump to you to pick it up. There we go. We're on to the emergency, but I'll jump to Goldberg while we get that one fixed here. Let's talk a little bit about Riddle then, and coming into this game, your expectations.
Yeah, I so far with the Riddle roster coming through, I actually think it's very interesting with the revamp they also had. Yes, Trouble, you didn't hear about it. She was talking about some of the roster movement they had and how some players were playing in the beginning. Now the ideal roster has come through. But I also think like there's one player specifically that I think has been absolutely incredible. I think Stefan in the jungle, a player that was the positional coach for X7 just last spring, where he was playing, or not playing, but he was coaching the likes of Haru. You know, the guy wasn't really coaching him then. He was talking about in interviews, well, I'm actually learning just as much myself. I want to go back into the player role. He's had his reflection period now. He's coming back into playing. And his stats reflect how good of a player he's become. He's first in everything as a jungler. He's diverse with the champion pool. He's not afraid to take control. We saw that against X7 as well, when he was playing against his former teams, coming in with a level 1 invade, taking over the entire game as the Grace, and just like that, just finished it.
Okay, so let me get this right here. Stefan is such a superlative talent that you believe that may be the difference maker going into this game for Riddle. Trouble, obviously we lost you a little bit there in that last segment. Is there any point you want to kind of re-emphasize about what you were saying before?
Yeah, I feel like he has a large history, right? He started all the way back when Eclectic of Dreams was created in the Balkans, meant to take European Masters by storm, but back then were stopped by the Mad Lions Academy that blew up, and then all players went on to LEC. And then from there on out, it has been a little bit of a roller coaster when it comes to Europe. Like in the Balkans, he was playing in top-tier teams like Asus Rogue and all that. But then back to coaching, and now back to playing. And I feel like he was a huge surprise, because I feel like his pathing is very intelligent. I feel like his ganks are always very successful, and that brings a big breath of fresh air and a big challenge to all the junglers that we already have on the NLC.
All right, okay, I like that. A little bit of a complicated history, but at the moment hitting a peak that we may not have seen before. But it's not just, obviously, going to be about Riddle and their jungler. We do need to talk about their opponents. Vanir here, Goldberg. Obviously, you've said already about how much you kind of think that they have a jungle issue they may have to deal with. What do you think they're going to do in this game?
I think Vanir has already showcased that they can be very flexible. We saw that they were willing to put a tank in the mid lane with the Sion, flexing that around. So just for the patch, we can already see that they are quite flexible. They have different ideas how you can play the game. And I think that can be a strength. I think they actually only lost because they all of a sudden was faced against a curveball when they were playing against Dusty with Kerberos on the Fiora. Had the game only been about team fighting, which is quite often is with all the other teams, I genuinely feel like Vanir would have taken the game with the draft and composition they had coming through. So I think, to me, they're a very hard team prepping against because they're as flexible as they are.
I feel like Kraox is like such a huge piece to that new roster puzzle that Vanir has created. He is the leader, I feel like, that a team needs, especially when you build a brand new roster. You need somebody with a really big voice that will go for the go button, and actually everyone will follow. And so far, everything that I've seen, even the game on the Lilia that he lost, every time he would engage, the entire team would follow, and it feels like everything is falling into place. Yes, one game didn't work because Kerberos was doing Kerberos things, and it's really hard to contain him, right? But I feel like this Vanir roster looks very promising.
Okay, that's an interesting point then. So it seems like team fighting, the draft, everything about this Vanir team screams all tied together. But it also means that it kind of comes from Kraox. And we actually have an example of some of the leadership you can expect to see from Team Vanir.
I will ult soon.
They will try to engage when I enter. They try to engage.
Yeah, I will stun them here. I will stun them here. Look.
Okay.
But we have to like step up.
But it's hard to engage, no? Or we should just go insta, but I think it's better. Just don't hit this, don't hit this, don't hit this.
Yeah, I think push mid, no?
Reset.
Just slowly poke, maybe?
You want to end this?
You need form, by the way, you need form.
Yeah, that's why I need slow.
I can get it slowly now.
Kill the first guy?
Ash.
Yeah, I'll kill this.
Yeah.
Play with Jinx.
Can you flash the Lolo?
Can we end bot? Can we end bot? Can we end bot?
Nice. Holy fuck.
Yes, and the fucking game.
Did you see my flash? Oh my fucking god.
Okay. But did you see his flash? Because Merv's flash right there was absolutely freaking insane. But then again, you see how Craig sort of mix managing everything around. Nah, you need form for us to team fight this. Do not hit the Elder Dragon. When this ends, we need to go. So even when there's not too much communication in the team fight, you see how everybody follows him and listens to his calls.
And I still feel like this is, just a little bit of a peak we get into a team fight. I think usually from players who are quite vocal, you'll see their strength like in setting up the team fight before, setting up the play, the objective, having the shot calling come through. Obviously, we haven't seen too much of this just yet, and I still think communication can get better because you still hear the uncertainties every now and then. Piece of wall, let's go. Oh, we kind of need engaged, don't we? Oh yeah, let's back off. Okay, so uncertainty still, but foundations that seem very stable and good enough to build something to fruition on.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point you speak about building, because I think it's time for our teams to build their teams. Pick and Ban is now ready to go. Let's find out, obviously, how these teams go into this and how it all kind of lays the land for the game we are going to see. Trouble, what are you expecting straight out of the gate?
Well, every time I look at Riddle, I'm like, oh, I'm going to see a Nidalee ban against them, but obviously it's going to have to be the Jax because it's the first part of Jax Blank's name. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see the Gangplank also banned right here because I feel like...
Oh, there it is.
Never mind, we are going to see the Gangplank here, but like there's things like Lucian, Taliyah that are very permanent right now. Nobody wants to actually deal with the Lucian down the bot lane, and a lot of teams that do leave it open, they'll also leave Renata open. So Renata and Lucian are like my two last bans that I'm expecting to see.
And this is very interesting as well because the likes of Wukong is up, and we've seen that just be first picked every time it comes through. It's usually just, the Taliyah, the Wukong, Senna as well coming through. So either you ban the Wukong, you let it go, and then there's Lucian to go for. We've already seen the Lucian Nami, how prevalent teams are at taking control with this as well. But it's actually going to end up being the Lilia, and this opens up for the fact that you can also just do a takeaway. Be like, you take the Wukong if you want to, we'll have the Echo in the back, or you take the Lucian here and we'll grab the Wukong maybe perhaps on 1 or 2 coming in.
Honestly, I'm always a little worried when I see Lucian being picked and Renata being left open because some teams will either leave the Nami open and allow that. This time Riddle are going to snatch the Nami away. But I feel like Renata Lucian is also a pretty good combo. You can put a Lulu next to him, like any enchanter that will allow him to move around really fast does work with him. But now I need to see Vanir building some room around this Lucian because it's a short-range ADC, and I see a Wukong already on the other side.
So this is already the trend, right? Team gets Wukong, okay, we pick Viego into it. So far from what I've seen across regions at the world, this trade-off hasn't really worked yet. Wukong seems to be the stronger one of the two when you finally get it. But this time around, though, it's still doable. It's not like it's a matchup that's completely unplayable. And I think as well, you need to kind of prioritize perhaps the support here unless you've really got a blind pick you want to get through before moving into the second ban phase, because you already have a Nami. You get the luxury of then banning away all the other things moving into the second ban phase. So it's going to be curious to see what they'll end up with.
So to sum it up for myself and some people at home, obviously, coming into this at the moment, who do you think's done the better job of setting the tempo and the game plan they want to see here, Trouble?
I just need to see what Riddle are going to pair up the Nami in the bot lane with, because I feel like any enchanter next to Lucian that allows him to have all these movement speed and shields and heals and speed ups works perfectly. Right now they've drafted Yuumi. They have 2 perfect targets for the Yuumi. Both the Lucian and the Viego are incredible for late game. And on the other hand, I'm wondering what you're going to give with the Nami, because right now a lot of Namis in the bot lane play with Electrocute. Twitch is a really good choice right here because he can literally go incognito, and the second he pops out, he will triple auto attack you, proc the Electrocute instantly from Nami E, and somebody will die.
But this is also a bot lane where you cannot fall behind. You die 1 time in lane as this Twitch here, laning phase becomes unplayable. It's very difficult to play. Luckily, Yuumi doesn't give the most setup to Illusion diving in. Yes, he can E forward, try to get the trading through, but then comes what you're talking about as well. Nami gets the healing through, there's all of a sudden a slow, and it is playable. But for sure, Twitch being short range as Lucian, it's going to be about the trading pattern. Twitch cannot die. He needs to get the scaling through because he will be better in the later stages.
Okay, so it seems like for me this is going to be a bit of a battle of attrition in the bot lane.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever makes a misstep could very much set the tone for the rest of that lane going through.
I like you frame it as whoever make the mistake instead of like, oh, who makes their opponent make the mistake instead. So it's just kind of, okay,
it's a high-risk lane by the look of it. Both teams have gone in with their strategies. They've looked for it. Obviously, having that Twitch Nami down the bottom, it does seem to be like, if you come out of this in a good position, you're in a very good position for the rest of it.
I feel like if any team has a Twitch, they don't necessarily look too much to play aggressive aggressive in the lane, right? They look to get their Twitch incognito to level 6, potentially fight for dragons, have him pop out of stealth and pop someone off. I'm just looking for space for Lucian to play because, again, Lucian is a very short-range AD carry. Twitch after level 6 with his ultimate gets huge range, and then you have the Nami ult, and then you have the Wukong ult. You have so much spacing around Rat, and now you need to do the same for Lucian. So I'm looking at picks such as Na, which has actually been banned away. Really nice reply if that gets locked in for Riddle. Victor, as a control mage in the mid lane, gives so much space. And maybe we're looking for something like a Lissandra, a Syndra, just something that will repel Wukong from just dashing in.
Yeah, there's those things. It's also entering it with a control mage if you're looking for it yourself. This classic Orianna into Victor. It's not really the most exciting for the lane matchup in itself, but it's something that offers stability. Now, Ericsson, once again, he's shown to be flexible. In the past, I mean, way back in the day, even when he was playing UK League, he was known for the Aurelius, the Akali, something that could punish this if he wanted to go in. So if you want a composition where you just have a go button and you just want to go at them, then Akali can actually be fine in this instance, but you can also just handshake and try and play for the Lucian down towards the bot side.
I've got you the special.
Go for it.
What if this Victor is top lane and you draft Yasuo mid with Wukong?
I mean, it's doable, of course.
Vladi
You're
has
getting
played
creative
Yone.
here.
He's played the brother. I'm not sure if he plays Yasuo, but that would have been an insane pick because I feel like Victor can farm very easily in the top lane versus Ornn. And then you add that Yasuo in the mid lane and you have backline access. Never mind, he's going to pull the Kerberos card for Jaxplank. He's going to go for the Darius.
So here's the thing how it works. Both these team composition kind of functions the same way, where you, on the blue side with Vanir, you got the tank in the top lane, he's got the engage, you got a control mage who can offer stability in the backline, both in terms of shielding, but also pick potential with a good shockwave and damage, and then Lucian coming through. Problem is, you're playing as well for Lucian, Viego, these kind of carries to come through. They're playing into a lot of range on the side on Riddle instead, now with, of course, the Twitch coming through, the Victor coming through, and I just feel like to get to the end game where you want to be the better team fighter, Riddle has an easier way to get there, at least with the Victor into the Ori, the Darius into the Ornn, and then just not dying with Twitch down in the bottom lane.
The only thing that worries me is the Darius pick, because if it doesn't snowball in the early, he's going to have a really hard time to reach the Lucian with the Yuumi ultimate, to reach the Orianna with the Ori ultimate, then you have a Viego, then you have an Ornn. It's just going to be really difficult to reach the backline when you have a champion that doesn't necessarily gap close, which I'm assuming is going to be like a Ghost flash sort of situation, but I'd like to see a lot of ganking towards the top side of the map to just try and snowball Jaxplank. I was just about to say Kerberos. I'm sorry.
All right, well, it seems like our teams have set everything up for this game to go ahead. And speaking of going ahead, I'm going to give it over to our wonderful casters for this one to bring us all the action. Over to you, Viperoon and Yamada.
Thank you very much, Desk. Do you know, I feel at home. Darius, you know, here at the NLC Division 1, we don't get to see it too often, but in Division 2,
Oh yeah,
it's known around those parts.
starting to be bread and butter down there. It's kind of worrying, but yeah. Jaxplank Darius pick. I was expecting a side lane-ish pick anyway. Darius, you know, can, but I do definitely have my concerns, like Trouble was voicing, towards the sort of later stages of the game, having to deal with things like the Shockwave, Ultimate from Yuumi. Getting backline access might be a bit of a struggle if you don't see, you know, some kind of wild flanks come in. But we'll see how Jaxplank handles it in the later stages of the game as we get into this one, Will.
Yeah, assuming that we do get into the late stages, we found our way onto Summoner's Rift for the first game of the evening. 5 games today, of course, to make sure to stick around for all of the action. We've got Vanir, we've got Riddle, we've got a very, very important matchup because both of these teams, with a couple of our giants faltering a little bit in the earliest stages, there's definitely an opening for a team like Riddle, like Vanir, to stake a claim, not even just for playoffs, but maybe one of those top 4 spots.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely very viable, right? Everybody had those expected top 4 teams coming into the reg split. X7 being one of those teams right now struggling in the middle of the pack. Of course, still plenty of time to readjust their position in the table, but point still stands. If you can get an early lead on them right now, and I mean, Riddle, definitely prime candidates, especially having just taken them down. That is very crucial if they can pick up a win here today to continue what looks like a very confident-looking side.
You talk about Riddle, their performance up against X7 on Monday might have been the strongest performance we've seen a team have just end of. I mean, you can talk about some of the other games, obviously the Bifrost Singularity game, you could talk about how well Bifrost played in that one, but when you're up against the team, it was just such an impressive performance from Riddle coming through and just start to finish absolutely dominating. But we've got Vanir on their radar now. Lost, of course, to Dusty on Monday through that split push. And I mean, if you're seeing Jax like look into Darius at the end there, if you're
wondering if you're scrimming
like,
against, you wonder if you're scrimming against Dusty all of a sudden again.
Where's Curb? Can we make sure that they're not account sharing? Off on the top side?
Of course, Legacy pick. Still excited to see Curb pull out the Darius.
I want to see Curb's Kale.
I do want to see Curve's Kale. I think it's going to continue to be banned away, though. Of course, Monday we saw a lot of Kale blue side bans. Today, a little less of that in the opening stages. But speaking of the opening stages, both junglers starting up on the top side. They are both pathing towards the bottom side of the map. They want to ensure that both of their bottom laners get a pretty solid start here. And I think it just really makes sense. You have Lucian on the bottom side. You always want to try and propel him ahead, try and give him as much of a tangible lead as possible. Right now, I think for Stefan, probably looking to just match, ensure that nothing too crazy goes on the bottom side. But actually, Krayox coming off the Wolf Camp, walking towards the mid lane, but Vladdy's holding the bottom side pocket, so it's going to be really difficult to make this gank work, though Vladdy oversteps a little bit.
Going to try to, though. Vladdy gets the slowdown. It will land onto Viego just on the edge there. Stefan now diving forward, was stealth, but is now revealed as Ericsson is in a very safe position. Kriok's not in too much danger, and they're just going to be moving back towards the bot side. Could we see a fight over the scuttle, potentially, with Merbs moving up?
Not just yet. Actually, the rotation really smart from the Vanir bottom lane, and that's actually what stops Stefan from stepping forward. Vision in the river to actually catch out that rotation, and it just means that Riddle don't overcommit, because if they do, likelihood of Stefan having to blow flash, maybe even end up dying in that situation, fairly high. So good, a little bit of information gathering from the early stages from Riddle to ensure that they don't overcommit to that play. But again, you can already see, it seems like Lucian and the Yumi will be having priority for now into Twitch and Nami. Definitely very interesting to see how this Twitch will do inside of lane in terms of keeping up in CS, things of that nature, ensuring that he's not falling too far behind. It feels like anytime we've seen Nami plus Lucian, it's been really over-oppressive,
yes,
at the very least. Seeing that combination now split up really does make me want to see how the solution will actually fare without the Mermaid.
I mean, it's interesting because it's going to give us a little bit of data on which half of this duo is the oppressive one, right? Because we've seen Lucian an awful lot in other lane states, of course. We've seen Lucian in other lanes when it comes to being played here at the NLC, both Division 1 and Division 2. But the Nami is very much, hey, it's with Twitch, or hey, we don't really get to see it that much, but has a lot of tools. And with this Twitch, it's going to be, you've got to imagine much less about going in and doing those aggressive early trades and more about being a little bit more disengaged, a little bit more peely, and making sure that Kehvo can get towards those later stages where he can just unload in team fights.
Yeah, no, and I think that's also going to be one of those things to track. I actually can't recall which game it was. It was a Bifrost against... memory is failing on me. I'm getting old, I know. But we saw OD's Twitch just track throughout the entirety of that game.
Yes.
It opened up once after 40 minutes.
I think it was against Dusty.
I think, yeah, Dusty was on the tip of my tongue, but I didn't want to say it.
Well, I have, so
well, there you go. Wrong. If he's wrong, he's wrong. But that's all it takes, especially in games like these, which are a lot more slow-paced now compared to 12-9. We're going to start sounding like a broken record sooner or later. But slow-paced games means we get to these item breakpoints a lot more frequently than we used to before the durability patch came in with some of these more scaling picks. So we'll see if Kehvo can make it to that point. It seems like the common trajectory has at the very least been yes.
Yeah, absolutely. The games have, by and large, been pretty long. Just on average, as we see Ericsson in a little bit of trouble, but able to dance away from that one quite easily. Yeah, games have just been a little bit longer because teams are taking a little bit more time to get to the big ticket moments, right? The flashpoints are still there. You still see fights over stuff like the Rift Herald, but First Dragon especially, and I don't know if I talked about it with you or with Trouble.
Would have been Trouble.
Monday. No, because it might have been in Division 2 last week.
Ah.
Talking about how teams just don't really seem to want to fight over the early Dragon.
Oh, yeah. No, that was me. Yeah, on Division 2. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it feels like teams... Yeah, the first Dragon takes have definitely been getting a little bit later, as actually in the mid lane there was an attempt on Ericsson's life. He did hold into his flash, but Vladdy did expend his ultimate, maybe looking for a favorable back in the next couple of waves. But yeah, teams, they're not really forcing the issue too much unless they have like hard priority on the bottom side of the map in the mid lane. You know, like your Nami Lucian, for example. Typically that just means your jungler will be towards the bottom side of the map anyway. Might as well take the objective. See if or not we get something similar with this Lucian still there. Shockwave.
Always got to land. Kriok's going to be able to get the stun, but needs to be careful. Stun, but not under tower, as Ericsson puts a tiny bit more damage down, but isn't going to be able to secure the kill.
Yeah, and I mean, Vladdy getting quite heavily pressured here, but honestly handled both these ganks so far super well in the mid lane. First one, sidestep the Spectral Maw, Stefan just ensuring that Vladdy doesn't get forced off the wave, maybe. Also, actually, Jaxplank's even roaming down from the top side very briefly just to push Vanir off of this mid lane shove. Great stuff across the board there. And Ericsson will be forced to back away. I believe the wave did crash, though. Didn't manage to hold that into a freeze, Vladdy. So will just take a slightly later back of his own. Kehvo could be in trouble.
Yeah, no mana gets forced through. A lot of damage is coming down onto the Twitch. He's burning as well. Will be able to step away. Will be able to survive. Yes, he will with the heal. But that was very, very close to the first blood.
Yeah, it was indeed. And you know, I wanted to actually talk about this matchup because we hovered over it for a brief second. But Jaxplank, not as much dominance. I feel like whenever we see Darius, top laners just kind of forget that he's Darius because you don't get to play against him frequently, and a solo kill just randomly happens up in the top side. But what I do like to see is Stefan using the priority, this slow pushing wave here of Jaxplank. And oh, I think they're trying to sync up a dive. Jaxplank will crash this one in. Stefan's still on the Gromp. Does have Smite to take it up, and I think they're going to try and make this dive work. But it's a little bit off time. Jaxplank taking a lot of damage already.
Yeah, but he wasn't taking any tower aggro. They're going to be able to get the Dragon. I think Hazira is dead. The dunk down will come through, and Stefan survives as well.
Yeah, great stuff from the top jungle duo. And on the bottom side, Kriox immediately responds with that Cloud Dragon. So potentially anticipating that dive as the slow stack came in. Jaxplank will take away at least one plate, as he knows he has the time to do so. There's a lot of gold going into the back pocket of the Darius, and even Stefan getting involved in the action as well is going to propel him towards his first IM even sooner. Good play from Riddle. Very nice stuff from Vanir to, at the very least, respond immediately with that Dragon.
It's, again, we talk about it so frequently, the idea of when you see a big play happening in the earliest stages, you've got to check your eyes quickly at the minimap and see what's the other team going to do to respond to this, because First Blood is a decent amount of gold, but getting that first Dragon is also going to be very nice. Yeah,
and the thing is, obviously, we had the concerns about Darius in the later stages getting backline access. If he's super accelerated, he can burst through somebody quickly. All of a sudden, he becomes a much bigger threat than he would have been previously if he doesn't get a bit of a lead in the early stages. So Riddle definitely playing into that avenue. And for now, Merbs and Zaremba haven't necessarily been, you know, punishing to the point of kills in the 2v2. But man, Kehvo is falling behind in the CS department. Already 20 down. We'll see whether or not Merbs can continue to grow that CS lead and then maybe leverage that lead either inside of his lane or elsewhere. But for now, off the back of that top side dive, Vanir will use the priority off the back of it to attain the Rift Herald.
And he's coming around again. Just a little bit of a play coming down. Zerema needs to be somewhat careful, but rooting up Kehvo, who's trying to get some damage down, opened up, but wasn't able to secure a kill.
You know, I've noticed a lot of straight line ultimates in the bottom lane.
Yeah.
Culling, last chapter, Twitch ultimate, kind of just all...
Circular ultimates in the mid lane.
Yeah. Even
and in the jungle.
In the jungle, yeah, as well.
Hazira ruined it a little bit. Hazira is going to pay for that as well.
Yeah. Hazira dies for not having a single target ultimate, like Darius does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But great stuff.
I mean, it can be a single target ultimate if you throw it really badly.
True, but that's a big deal, honestly, now. Jaxplank should be able to just absolutely manhandle this lane by himself. I expect, though, we'll probably see more visits. It seems like, at the moment, Riddle don't really have a real avenue into the bottom lane. Merbs doesn't have Flash for now, so maybe if Stefan bases and picks up the Divine Sundara, which I think he's still going to be a little bit short for, but could be fairly close, yeah, looking at a couple hundred more gold. It seems like could maybe look to try and punish it, but I feel like leave that lane alone. Kehvo is still going to scale eventually, even if this Lucian is starting to build up a CS lead. Leave it be. As long as you don't let them get dove, miss big waves like this, that's all you really need to do as Stefan, and it seems like, at the very least, Hasmemo is going to try and cover this dive. Orianna Eriksson has first move from the mid lane, but there is a wave there. Vladdy's already teleporting back, and it seems like there won't actually be a dive on the cards for now from Vanir.
Yeah, Kriox is holding that very, very well. But you mentioned Eriksson there, someone I do want to have a very quick mention of, because we haven't really talked about mid lane because Orianna versus
Victor. It's
you know, it is what it is.
It's Azir Corky levels of.
That's it. I won't hear the Azir. I love myself a good Azir lane. But for Eriksson, right? A lot of people, including myself, are questioning this pickup coming into the season.
Myself included.
Because, you know, if you come 9th in Division 2, being signed in Division 1 is a bit of a question mark.
Yes.
However, we've seen this one before. Hazard needs to be quite careful as he's going to flash, but he's not going to be able to knock up. There's the dunk down, and there's the kill. But for Eriksson, he's definitely stepped up in this new Division 1 roster.
Yeah, very surprised. Of course, Eriksson has participated in the NLC before.
Of course.
In Division 1, all the way back. I think it was spring 2021. It could have even been before that. Barrage, of course. Nordavind, I'm pretty sure he was on one of those Nordavind rosters as well. So he's been in Division 1. It was just definitely a bit of a surprise to see him down in Division 2 and then also have his team not so much perform. Definitely one of the more consistent members, but I think returning a little bit more back to the game, this top lane is starting to become a bit of an issue, William.
You were like, oh, I don't know how he's going to get an opening, and then just 3 times he opens up on like a can of beans.
Yeah, well, I mean, Stefan did help with that first dive.
Well, he had the can opener. He was like, here you go.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, cheers. I'll just deal with that.
But this is very quickly, I won't even say slowly, becoming a bit of an issue for Vanir now, because as you can see, JaxPlank has the Stride Breaker, has Merc Tread, he's got tier 2 boots and his Mythic. If he gets on top of Hesero again, he will simply just do what he just did.
I mean, actually, in bot line, we're getting a bit of a fight. Burbs needs to be careful. He's already dead. They're going to be able to catch out the Yuumi as well. Riddle open up and grab themselves 2 with Dragon spawning in 15.
Yeah, I mean, just a great gank timing, I suppose, from Stefan. Maybe was trying to get him Merbs right before his flash came back up. Came back up anyway, still blew the flash, still died. 2 kills go over to the Riddle name, and now they will be able to pick up the Dragon. I suppose if they want to, should have priority in the bottom side. Of course, no bottom laners to match it.
Kreox is hanging around, though.
Kreox is here, and the thing is, you can see Hesero has roamed down from the top side. I think JaxPlank is holding a freeze up there, and that's why he's moved over. So Vanir actually have enough numbers to potentially match this. So Riddle going to respect it for now, but what you can now see is the immediate response in the top side. JaxPlank pushing that lane up there is going to mean Hesero's going to rotate up there as well. Kreox drops the Herald in the mid lane, so you can see it's a bit of a trade of pressure across the map as this Herald will get his charge off, and the plates only go into the Viego's back pocket. Nothing went into the Oriana's.
And I mean, you get those plates, but the plates are... At least one was traded up on the top side by the Darius, and Dragon is still on the table, and Vanir cannot afford to keep their members here for that long. You see Hezero's already moved back up to his lane, but we know that lane is not super pleasant for him at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, Riddle can just give this one up. They don't have to fight it, right? They still are looking for those iron breakpoints on the Twitch, on the Victor. They will be a little whiles away, and if this is an Infernal spawn, it seems like it's an Ocean. It could have been a little bit scary. Ocean on this patch, despite everyone getting a little bit tankier, surprisingly doesn't feel as oppressive as it maybe could have been. So I feel like Riddle are probably all right staring down the barrel of maybe looking to contest that 3rd Dragon Avenue. We'll see whether or not Vanir can try and, again, leverage the strength of Merbs. Already has the Gale Force. It seems like Kehvo is actually going to be building in to the Blade of the Ruined Kin, given his itemization. So definitely a bit of a stronger first item spike for Kehvo, which could maybe give him and the rest of the Riddle the opportunity to very confidently contest that
in a
Dragon.
lot of trouble. They're going to get caught by the knockup from Stefan, but we'll be able to dance away.
Yeah, and that flash being down, gonna feel kind of good. That was 2 ultimates for a flash, and it seems like Riddle want to try and contest this Herald, which will be spawning up shortly. So that is ultimate disadvantage. Economy not in their favor once that will spawn up. We'll see what Vanir can get done with that in mind, especially if they can get Hesero to just teleport up to the top side. Even if he is 2 levels down on the Yawn, all he has to do is press his R key and find the knock-up, so he will find at least some usefulness there. But matching this side lane into the Darius, it's going to be very, very tough for now. But like this from Vanir, matching the Lucian, I beg your pardon, and the Yuumi into Darius for now, just to ensure that Darius cannot be as oppressive. But Riddle, very quick to the draw, will send their bottom lane up to match Vanir's bottom side.
It does give some free time for Hesero on that bot side. However, though, of course, plates have fallen off. Gold looking quite nice at this stage for Riddle, about 3,000 to the good for them, which isn't huge. It's not insurmountable by any means, but it's definitely a nice advantage. If we can have a quick talk and just see where that gold lead is, I think we can probably predict which lanes are going to have it.
I wonder.
Production's like, no.
They don't even want to show it. They're just like, no, I think Darius is going to have maybe a little bit too much gold. Not just TOS stuff, you know? Maybe not.
I mean, for me, it's a case of, we talked about how JaxPlank is going to get access to the back line. Right now, it's looking like his access will just be killing the front line and then just working his way back.
And I mean, realistically, it can work if, you know, if Kehvo just opens up and shreds the front line because it's so far behind. Can work out Merbs, putting a lot of pressure down here with Zaremba.
Well, Kreox is down there on the red tower, so...
Yeah, that's what that's for, as JaxPlank is quite literally just taking the tower in front of Hesero's face at this point. Doesn't seem to care too much about his own health bar.
We'll get knocked up, though. Not going to be in any real danger. Can just wander away, but this Rift Herald is going to be secured by Vanir. I'm looking, and there's no sign of any kind of contest for Riddle. And Riddle now looking towards Hezero. It's Stefan on the back, and this Ornn cannot catch a break this game. Going to be able to flash and dodge away. Will be caught by the second bit of damage, but not going to get the knock up this time around. Nash is going to be caught on tower, though, and that's going to be a free kill going over to Vanir. Kriox tanks up a couple of hits as Kehvo can't do anything. Ericsson's up here as well, though. Are they going to keep chasing the rat? They may well do. Ultimate comes down. There's the exhaust. There's the flash. The damage goes on to Twitch, and he will fall. Kriox secures the kill, and Vanir make an excellent trade.
Yeah, great cross map. They respond excellently, but I have to question why Kehvo and Nash were still hanging around there after seeing their own jungle and top commit so heavily to that bottom side play. They heard the Herald ding as well go off from the takedown. A little bit greedy, but maybe Mervs and Zerenda just about locked them in place long enough to ensure that play could come through. And now Vanir get to take that tower without the Herald. And they will be able to hold on to that potentially towards that third dragon. Maybe drop it towards the mid lane again like they did to try and gain some mid lane priority. And I mean, if they can get a couple of hits in on that tower, I think second Herald is normally about 2.2k damage, so could even take down that mid lane tier 1 with it. We'll see what they can achieve. But Riddle, still, in the grand scheme of things, are ahead 2,000 gold. Probably going to be feeling pretty confident as Jaxplank hits 2 items. And we'll get a replay of what happens here. So Kehvo and Nash, it seems like we're starting to try and respect this, but yeah, it's just that Yuumi ultimate, Merbs dashing forward just enables them to lock down the Nami. And Kehvo had just used the Q, the ambush, to try and stealth get out of that one. Great flash to get away from the Heartbreaker, but unfortunately, still gets exhausted, still gets slowed down, and still gets locked down by the Shockwave.
And I'm definitely wanting to see Kriox try and get that Rift Herald down mid lane as you suggested. He's actually going to do it right in front of our eyes. Good stuff, Kriox. Glad you're paying attention, buddy, because when you've got the likes of a Victor in the mid lane, taking down this tower and taking away his safety is so important.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time, all of those wave clear mages, right? Your Aziz, your Victors, Xeraths even, Anivia. Yeah, it is absolutely obnoxious. Wait, did you say Nautilus?
Yeah. I just want to see if you notice. I'm just testing you.
Okay.
Just making sure you're paying attention.
Yeah, really obnoxious to deal with that mid lane tier 1. It becomes a bit of a safe haven, so knocking that down means they can sometimes maybe catch the wave a little bit higher up, rotate into the sides of the map a little bit quicker. Merbs steps a little bit far forward. Of course, had the Yuumi on his back, so feeling confident. Doesn't quite have the 2 items yet, and talking about items very quickly, kind of across the board, mostly parry. It's just the top side of the map where Jaxplank has that dead man's plate. And again, we have to see how easy it is for him to find backline access. That's the crucial thing. Keep an eye on whether or not this Darius goes unchecked in this team fight, whether Kehvo can find a good opening. And on the opposite side, Hesero's ultimate, Shockwave, things of those nature, those big team fight ultimates are the key for Vanir, but it seems like they're just going to yield it. They don't even want to risk flipping this. And honestly, I can kind of understand, given how strong that Darius is, and the potential of just, you know, falling a little bit too far behind right now.
Yeah, giving up that opportunity. You can see Ericsson moving towards the top line. Merbs, they might have overstayed his welcome. Going to be caught by the knockup. Going to get the Yuumi ultimate, the last chapter coming through, but Kriox is now in the firing line as Kehvo chasing forward, looking for the damage. There's the teleport coming through. This is the bot side. Hezero will join the fray, but should be stunned up in the middle of it. The bubble's there, but Stefan's gone. And now Vanir chasing forward. Hezero with the ultimate. Can he catch anyone? Yes, he can. It's Kehvo who gets knocked up twice, taken down by Ericsson on the side, though. Jaxplank has found access towards the Remember, gets the dunk, but doesn't get the kill. And now he needs to be careful, ghosting away, but will be called out by so much damage. They're running forward. Jaxplank does get a kill onto Yuumi and actually manages to escape. He's a speedy boy, but Vanir take the fight.
Yeah, Vanir do take the fight at the very least. They'll be happy with Oni dropping their top laner for that. Stefan, Kehvo both die. 2 for 1 in the end of the exchange, but I mean, it happens after the Dragon's already gone, the Baron's spawning up, but realistically no chance of a takedown. Just a bit of a boxing match after the Dragon fight. Riddle feeling hungry after not actually getting what they were probably betting for at that third Dragon. Engage comes in, disengage nicely, and they were going to chase, but that teleport comes in, and then all of a sudden you can see a bit of too much of a split off, right? Stefan has to retreat down towards the bottom side, towards the mid lane, and yes, he was retreating towards Darius, but isn't able to get away in time. Kehvo gets knocked up, very easily bursted down, but Jaxplank on the bottom side apprehends the Yuumi, is able to get all of those stacks in, and that's why he ends up at least trading that kill, able to flash out, and Kriox on the opposite side was also not able to take down Nash and Vladdy. Decent team fight for Vanir. Things can get better. We've spoken about these team fight ultimates and how much value they can have. It's about finding that value, though.
And for those of you who might be a little bit confused about how the Yuumi went down there while attached, the ticking damage from the hemorrhage can still apply even if you jump on. And unfortunately, the healer had already been used.
Untargetable, not invincible, is the key difference there.
Pause the Rimba.
Pause the Rimba.
But that being said, Yuumi player, so...
Who cares?
Unlucky. There's like a tier list of like how much I'm sad when I see a champion die.
Yeah.
It goes from like, I'm actually quite devastated. You know, like the Tristana Dragon Slayer skin, like Nunu, obviously.
Nunu is the saddest champion in the game to see die.
No. It is the Tristana. It's the Tristana with the skin, because she dies and then the dragon like goes up to her and like nudges her and then like lies down next to her.
Nunu kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, Nunu, like yeah. That's also sad. And then it goes down a little bit, and then at the bottom are like assassin players, and like. That is the lowest tier, is Assassins, and then Yuumi is just above that. Because there's nothing funnier than like a Zed diving into a team fight and getting 2-shot.
I will raise you.
Okay.
Lulu.
What's funniest or saddest?
Funniest, I just don't like that.
It's like, there's nothing about it, it's just funny in it. Like, I don't know, I'm a tank. I don't tend to die in team, well, I do tend to die in team fights, but I'm bad. But, you know, it's, you know, you get a lot out of what people play, you know. You can
do as
a lot of our players, but it looks like Jacksplank going to get rooted up, but he has support in the wings. That's a really nice tidal wave onto 3 members. Bubs needs to be careful as he takes the tower shot. Stefan trying to get something going. The teleport coming in behind Vanir. They're going to get a bit of assistance, but Zaremba dies once again, but this time it's the tick from Victor. That secures the kill. Murbs needs to be careful. Will be able to dive away, and Ericsson trying to keep this fight going positively for Vanir, but it looks like it might just be a disengagement. Jacksplank is very, very quick to flash, and the speed up will get the rest of Vanir out, but they do lose their cat.
Yeah, they do lose their cat. If Jacksplank had Ghost Man, he is sending it. I know that for a fact. But Zaremba again gets caught out unattached during the Lost Trap turn. We'll get the replay in. Just looking at the cross map, potentially expecting that Riddle won't be down here to match, that Jacksplank will be down here by himself. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Zaremba gets caught out by the wave, the tidal wave initially. And then from that point on, very easy to pick him up. Ericsson tries to find a little bit of damage onto Vladdy. And like we said, getting sped up by the Nami. If he had Ghost, I think he would have just full sent it, tried to go for the resets entirely. But unfortunately was not able to find his mark on this instance. And Riddle went out on the play just by reading the map.
And that's something that Riddle have been doing pretty well this entire game and the whole season, in fact, up to this point. Something that has impressed me about Riddle a lot is their ability to understand how this game is played on this patch. And we talked about Nuriki being the Kings of the Patch, X7 being Kings of the Patch. Both of them lost yesterday, Riddle didn't. So having that extra week to get the scrim time in and just spend some time with their coaching staff definitely paid off.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've been saying, right, on the analyst desk in particular, it's going to take time for teams to adjust to the patch. We'll see, again, which teams are the best at adapting to it, as Riddle will yet again have first move into the Dragon area and towards this river. Vanir gonna have to face check into this slowly but surely. Again, they have some of these elements to poke and prod and try and find some Mumbo combos. But it's about finding them. Riddle haven't really given them the opportunity, and it seems like for the second Dragon in a row, they will yield pressure towards it. He'll take mid lane priority. Actually pings towards trying to take that tier 2. Jacksplank is here. I don't think he can hold it 1v5, but again, the rest of Riddle are now going to rotate back over. Will we see an opening yet again? There's a tidal wave.
Wave onto his Zero, but he's the only one called out. But Kehvo's on the side, unloading damage. Crooks needs to be a little bit careful. The knock-up will land, but his Zero
Jacksplank, he's got stacks. He's got the
He's running towards Ericsson, dancing away from the slowdown, but won't be able to catch him as Vanir do manage to huddle under their tower. They do lose their top laner, though.
Oh, Jacksplank had like 3 seconds left on his flash. If he had that, he is going, and I promise you, he would have found so much more. So many flashes not available, but now looking for a pincer movement.
There's Stefan coming in. He gets the upper hand onto the Yuumi, who's once again the victim. Vladdy gets the kill. Stefan goes low. Kriox still alive, looking for the resets. Will be able to find it, looking towards Jacksplank, but can't get the damage down. And Kriox is just going to return to his handsome Viego self. But that's a dive that went okay for Riddle.
I mean, I think the objective of the dive was complete, though. They took the tier 1 tower in the mid lane, so realistically, probably all right with that. Stefan didn't have a big shutdown or anything to hand over. Could have been a little bit cleaner, maybe, but I think did what they came to do. Pick up the second dragon. Now, actually, Kriox.
Kriox is hunting.
Yeah, he's hunting, but the thing is, Murbs is resetting. So this is a bit of a duo mission against 3. That red buff's going to reset. Never mind. Vladdy wants it more than Kehvo.
I was like, oh no, they're going to steal it.
Yeah, it's like one of those things like when you're a jungler, you smite blue buff. Oh, the jungler was right there, I promise. But tidal wave, again, hits onto the front line. And you can see the response from there to shut down Kehvo's open up. Really great. But the issue is, in doing that, they left Hesira out to dry, to be honest with you. Not really their fault. Hesira was very far in, a little bit slow to retreat, unfortunately. Left to the Noxian guillotine. And then this dive towards the mid lane. Great stuff. Almost finds a double apprehend. Jacksplank, it would have been more kills. Maybe a cleaner dive in all. But the flash was very, very quick from Murbs, and Kriox able to, at the very least, respond. But still, that tower does go down, and that means Riddle will find their third of the game. All of those hours now for Vanir are down. Riddle Looking for an assassination onto Merbs, no flash, but double dash and Gale Force.
Yeah, simple as that to get away. And of course, keep your eyes under the scoreboard for the momentum meter, just to show what our stunning analysts think about this game so far and all the games that we've got this evening. We've got Riddle being quite heavily favored. You in agreement, or are they not paying attention?
No. You're asking me to flame Gorborg and Trouble?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm asking if I'm giving you the opportunity to if you want to.
Yeah, they're doing all right.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I think this is about right. I mean, realistically, Riddle, they can't really push the issue that much, right? Their options in terms of hard engage are very, very limited.
Yes.
It mostly comes about from, you know, the likes of a tidal wave over the wall into Twitch opening up. But the issue is Vanir have all of the agency options, right? The Ornorm in particular, and the follow-up that can come from that. And also the ability to respond very well, in particular, to Kehvo opening up, right? Lost Chapter, very easy to lock him down. Shockwave can always just be used on Twitch to stop him from getting his ultimate out, and that's always a trade you're happy to take, to be honest with you. So it's going to be difficult for Riddle to consistently find fights, most likely, assuming Vanir don't face check or do anything of the likes as they're trying to stick.
Because Stefan, he's going to be able to get a double knockout, but he hasn't got any assistance in the immediate vicinity except Vladdy. And Vanir are happy to just walk away from that one. It looked much scarier than it was, but remember, the Yuumi was on top of Viego, and I don't think they lose that 2v1.
No, likely not. Yuumi, very strong, also has the Oblivion Orb on top of that Moonstone. So we'll be cutting down any of the healing that the Monkey can get out of the Divine Sunderer. Oh, definitely would have won that 2v1. If Vladdy showed up, though, to get some of that burst damage down, maybe not a whole bunch of magic resist in Kryox's back pocket. But for now, I expect in between these dragons, it's just going to be slow and steady. I think both these teams really want to hit those iron breakpoints, right? And speaking about irons, I think maybe this is a good time. We're about a minute away. But we'll briefly talk about the gold, because it's been flashed up on our screen. As expected, Jax Plank is what?
Wait, if we keep our eyes peeled there for a few more seconds, he may well flame Horizon.
Yeah, but Merbs
might actually be okay, though. A lot of damage coming on down to him. Hezura is there for the support, though. He will dance away and actually survives. Kryox in the middle will be in a lot of trouble, though, as he tries to stumble out. We'll get up a little bit, but he gets dunked down by Jax Plank.
Oh, Jax Plank.
He's so quick, looking for Hezura, but can't even find the slow, let alone the apprehend. But for Riddle, they expended a lot of resources, but this could mean Baron.
Yeah, very well, Baron. I mean, Viego's dead, and there's no big teamfight almost left besides Zaremba's. I think this is going to be Baron for Riddle. Realistically, trying to contest this with Vanir will be very, very dangerous, and they're on the bottom side. They're trying to trade out for the Dragon, maybe, but that spawns in 15 seconds. This Baron's going to be dead by then, and whether or not they can burst it before some of the other members from Riddle come back towards the bottom side to respond, we'll have to see. Riddle trying to kind of dip their hands into both pots here. Stefan Kehvo taking the Baron makes it a little bit slower, but bringing Vladdy, bringing Jax Plank down with Nash just kind of ensures that, yeah, I mean, Vanir just can't even step foot in the river entirely, and now they should be able to get both objectives, potentially, if they want to dip into it. They read what Vanir want to do. It seems like Vanir, again, just willing to yield this Ocean Dragon. This is what I was talking about when we saw the Ocean flash up, right? It seems to me that it might be even weaker than Cloud, to be frank with you.
It's not that
on
deep,
this patch.
basically.
Yeah, unlike an Ocean, which typically is very deep.
Depends which part of the ocean.
Depends, yeah, I guess.
It's like a rock pool.
It's like a rock pool.
Like, you don't just step on the beach and fall like into the Mariana Trench, do you?
No.
Unless it's a very bad beach.
Are there any beaches like that?
I mean, there are beaches where you can, like, go in quite deep initially, I'm sure. Let us know in chat your favorite beach. Tweet at us at hashtag, if you're at a beach right now, hashtag
if for whatever reason
NLC at home. Or hashtag NLC at the beach.
NLC at home into a picture of a beach.
Yeah. Like, if you're at the beach.
Right.
Don't lie to us. We'll know.
Yes, I'm sure we will. I've missed you, Will.
It's just, you know, at the beach, isn't it? It's a good time.
All right.
The beach not that long ago. It was very cold. As we're going to see it. Engage coming on for Stefan.
Oh, they found Kehvo!
They found Kehvo, and he's dead. And it looks like Vanir can move forward. Stefan trying to get away, needs to be careful. But notably, Jax Plank hasn't been involved yet. He's looking for the flank on the side, maybe looking towards Kryox, but he's going to dive forward towards Vladdy. He's got the spawn of the Yuumi, but the rest of his team is a little bit far away. As Jax Plank is playing Bouncer exceptionally well, trying to find Hezura. We'll get the damage down. Vladdy actually gets the kill onto Kryox, and now Zaremba is going to be in trouble as he gets taken down for the double. It looked so good, but Vanir, they got backline access, but then the backline murdered them.
Yeah, I just feel like Kryox as well dives a little bit too far ahead of the rest of his team, not able to really help him with that dive, unfortunately. And this is the thing, Ericsson also not in a position where the Shockwave could be of use, doesn't even end up using it. and Riddle able to burst down the Viego as he just overcommits, tries to get the resets going, but unfortunately the response as well. Jax Plank comes up from the bottom side of the map, and at that point, even though you find yourself Kehvo, which credits for doing that somehow as a...
Vladdy's been found as well, and he's very dead.
You know, I don't know how much you talk with Arsharam.
Not as much as I'd like.
So, I'm not sure if you heard of the curse of the place, Los Platos.
I have heard of Los Platos.
Yes. Now, I don't exactly know. What's the color for blue in Spanish? Do you know?
No.
Or the name?
I speak zero Spanish.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm sure someone will let us know.
If you speak Spanish, let's...
We're asking a lot of Twitch chat here. But let's get the replay of this, because honestly, that Ornn armor was massive. It found Stefan, who went in stealth, but crucially, it found Kehvo, and Kraox was able to follow up on it. As you can see, Kraox just goes a little bit too far forward, looking for Vladdy. He has no flash, and that's probably the reason the overcommit comes in. But you can see, Riddle from the bottom side, yeah, just splits the fight apart, and everybody from Vanir just has to go in different directions. Zaremba left to the, well, the wolf that is Vladdy, after his backpack buddy is absolutely decimated by the Victor. And again, Vanir, they have to kind of stick together. Even like they have to play, I feel like, to be honest with you, front-to-back team fights. That's the only thing they can really do. The moment that they get split apart by the disruption of the Wukong, the Darius, things are just going to get so difficult. It's going to allow, you know, the Riddle side to even find, you know, Jax Plank resets with the Darius. Level 16 as well, so don't forget, kills reset the Noxian Guillotine regardless, I believe. That's how the ultimate interaction works at level 16.
Yes, full reset.
Just a full reset, regardless of whether or not he finds the execute. So,
well, it's also that it doesn't go cooldown. It's not that it has the time limit.
Yeah, exactly. So, has to be careful of that one. Riddle for now, just trying to find this last inner tower, and they're going to get it. Vanir not really in much of a position to respond appropriately, though they are looking for a teleport behind them, and
I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to work. Zero needs to get a really nice ultimate, capturing a couple of members. He's going to blow the horn and looks for something. Will be able to find two, and now dives towards Jax Plank. Jax Plank is in the backline notably, but Stefan goes gold and will survive this time around. And what going oh, Jax Plank is assassinated now. Jax Plank is diving through double, looking for more. The Twitch will find it. Darius is marauding through the match, looking for another. Vladdy takes down the cat. Ericsson cut down, and I think that might be it. Don't mess with the Dunk Master, because he's out to get ya.
Oh, it felt like an inevitability that we were going to get a team fight like that. And Jax Plank almost finds himself, realistically, a penta, but Riddle find themselves a successful team fight, and they will close this one out. It just felt like Vanir were never able to get the kind of team fight that they were looking for, that team composition. And Riddle will move up in the standings to 4-2 as they take down Vanir in pretty damn convincing style.
I'm gonna say Vanir had some very good moments in that game.
They did.
And I think we've had some games here which have felt much less close than that, even though the scoreline might not suggest it. I think Vanir goes 0-2 this week, and it feels like they should be very upset with that, because yesterday, of course, the Dusty split push. Today, a game where they just need to ban top laners who can play on that own.
I will just argue, I feel like in the Dusty game, they had definitely had more of an avenue, an angle to win that one.
Yes.
I feel like here, this just felt bad. I don't know what else to say. I really, besides, you know, Riddle overstepping and just consistently finding Ornn into Shockwave, that game just kind of felt a little bit too much for them to handle. I feel like as soon as Darius got too much of a lead and Merbs wasn't able to really, you know, leverage the lane lead that he found into the rest of the map, that was kind of
that's the thing. It was failure to transition. The top lane was very easily used by Riddle, and the rest of the map from Vanir didn't manage to do it. We're going to jump over to our desk over in that direction, for those of you wondering where it is geographically, as they go to break down this game.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that game is done and dusted, and Riddle walked away with the win. Trouble, I've got to get your first kind of reactions on how you felt that game went.
I felt like Riddle played pretty well for the composition they had drafted. I mean, they drafted so many tools around the Twitch to be able to come into fruition in the team fights. They had the Nami ults, the Nami peeling, Wukong peeling, and engage if needed be. And of course, control mates onto Vladdy, the Victor, give so much space for the Twitch to play around. Our only question mark was, does that Darius snowball in the top lane? Because if he does not, it might be difficult. But Stefan is a giga-intelligent jungler. He knows exactly which part of the map to play for. Snowballs Darius, then Darius gets a solo kill. We know the rest of the story.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because we said it out there. Both team composition wanted to do the same. They wanted to team fight. But the way the picks worked into each other, they're just kind of favoring Riddle instead. And as Trouble mentioned, when then Stefan also shows up in the jungle position to make sure that the matchup is skewed even more in their favor, well, they kind of just run away with it. It did get a little bit messy in the mid game, even towards the end of it, where Vladdy gets caught in enemy blue buff. That obviously gives Vanir a little bit of hope with
Doesn't
shotguns
even get the
coming
blue
through.
buff, not worth.
It would have been a transfer either way, but the thing is still that there's still room for a bunch of cleanups coming through. I think they had the luxury of having the better draft moving into it. It's not always going to be like that. So Riddle, they take the dub, still room for more improvement.
Okay, interesting for that one then. So essentially you were saying that this game win was built in the draft and then executed pretty well through the lanes and the jungler going forward. And we spoke an awful lot about that kind of initial lane. Going to the bot lane as well, we said this could be a high risk, high reward, a war of attrition. Who comes out on top? It turns out it's actually going to be the jungler who makes the difference in that one.
It definitely seems like
Are we saying Diffie in the Jiffy right here? Okay, I can't go that far because I feel like Kreox played pretty well with what was given to him and all the deficits around, you know, bot lane dying 2v2, top lane dying 1v1. Yes, the Darius had 2 kills, but did you still die 1v1 alone to him? So I feel like, yes, Kreox played as well as he could, but unfortunately this is not a single-player game. This is a team game. And I feel like back-to-back Vanir have struggled versus teams that want to play through a side lane bully bruiser, once against Kerberos onto the Fiora, and this time versus Jaxplank onto the Darius. So I feel like they need to find a way to stop the bleeding from the top side versus teams like that.
And generally speaking, I just felt like it was high risk, high reward, as you also said. With the Lucian coming through with the first pick, I think it was very clever from Riddle as well to just take away the Nami, know that they can pair it up with the Twitch instead. I think it became a little more difficult for Vanir to play with that win condition when they opted in for a Lucian Yuumi. Usually Yuumi is great with champions as well, where you can kind of scale up and be a menace in the team fight. Like Twitch, for example, Twitch Yuumi composition that we often have seen as well. So it just felt like some of the power that they relied on the laning phase was taken away from them a little bit. And when you then mention Stefan, as you do, coming into it, it just made the task a little more impossible in that regard.
Okay, a lot of things done right then coming in from this one, but here's the kind of example of some of the team fights we were talking about, and this was all set up in the laning phase earlier, Trouble.
Yeah, and I feel like even though I do praise Kreox, I'm like, what are you doing in the middle of 5 people? And I get it that when you're playing in this particular Vanir lineup, right, your own is your engage, but then you don't have many more tools to follow up. Again, you don't create a lot of space around your Lucian. Once the Yuumi ultimate is down, then the opponent team is able to push forward and just find your Lucian, and you see that that Lucian was like taken out of the picture instantly. So by the time Kreox comes in, by the time Ornn TP's in, everyone is just scattered around the map.
All right, well, it seems like they've made themselves a good name going forward here, going 4-2 in this one. But before we go any further on and breaking this game down, I believe we can bring in an expert because they were in the game themselves. I should have on the line now, Kehvo from Riddle. First of all, how are you and feeling after that win? It puts you in a very good position.
I'm feeling pretty good after the win, but wait, actually, just what is this? What is this jersey I have? Wait, just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Wait, an imposter? Wait. No, that was your team from another split. Take it off.
Wow,
There we go.
Quick change. Very quick change.
Now that's proper. You forgot from a previous split the jersey on, man. Come on.
All right, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. Yeah, what was the question?
Well, let's talk about this. Obviously, you're the winning team into this one. It's put you in a great position. A lot of that built in the draft going into it. Game plans are great, but what allowed you to kind of execute that game plan and what went well for you in that series?
Well, I think it was just a complete top diff. Like, I think he had like a 20-minute flame horizon, a few solo kills up there. So, you know, we in the bot lane, we just picked the Nami away from the Lucian. And we were like, after we saw our top winning so hard, we were like, yeah, we're just going to chill bot and let you take over. And that's what happened.
Yeah, because that's kind of my question as well. You decide to take that 2v2 instead. I think it's a really good trade getting the Wukong there on that end. What do you make of the 2v2 you then end up in? Because you end up in Lucian with a Yuumi versus you and Twitch and Nami. What was your kind of game plan going into that 2v2? What's your insights into that matchup?
I think it's a pretty fine matchup. Like, you just kind of want to go even with Twitch, and then you're like really fine. But actually, like, we kind of fell behind because we kind of stayed in the lane for too long, and we called our jungler to cover to fix our wave, but he had to go mid because there was some action, so we kind of fell behind from that one. But yeah, we still ended up being like pretty relevant after all. So
You certainly were. Certainly kind of in a very strong position, at least our analysts thought so, for the majority of the game. My kind of last question, and it kind of relates to what we saw from the very start of this interview. Obviously, playing for Vanir last bit, now playing for Riddle. Was it a kind of an extra good feeling? Like, was there a little bit more on the line here for you, obviously playing against a team that you've played for before?
I mean, there is a little bit, not that much. I mean, I think it's more exciting than playing against, I don't know, like New Rick or something. I think it's more exciting playing against their old team, like their stat factor for sure. But at the end of the day, it's another day at the office, and yeah, we came here to win, and we did that.
Yeah, you certainly did. A great win as well. So thank you for joining us here in the NLC studio. It's been a pleasure. We'll let you go and relax and celebrate with your team now and have a good time watching the rest of the games we have to come here. First of all,
thanks for having it.
No problem. Absolutely no problem. Let's talk a little bit about something that was said in that interview then. They had the game plan. They knew exactly how to counter going forward into it. Is that something that we can expect them to build upon going against other teams as well? Having strategies like that locked in and knowing the right counter moves to make to set you up for the game you are going to play.
I don't think you'll be able to replicate it into the same instance as you did today. Once again, I feel like it was very specific with how the ban folded down. I think they did a good job on red side, allowing 2 OP picks be up, getting the OP pick they wanted for themselves, and then just having a way to kind of mitigate it. I think at the same time, Vanir as well probably could have made more out of their composition and played into Riddle's hand. So I think for sure Riddle got away with not daylight robbery, right? But they definitely put themselves up for success. And it's not always going to be the story in League of Legends. Sometimes you're going to be coming in with the worst draft into the game, and then you're going to have to rely on your skill on the Rift instead. And for Riddle, we will still like to see that kind of evolution come through when they are punished in the drafting as well.
Okay, I like that though, but solid foundation, smooth transition into the game as well. That makes it a little bit easier if you're feeling very confident in the draft phase as well. But Trouble, kind of coming out of that game, we didn't get to talk an awful lot about the early stages of it. We did say we expect the jungler to make a difference going through. Is there anything on the side of Vanir you thought they could have maybe done a little bit differently or given them an opportunity to make the game a bit more even?
I felt like there could have been a lot more pressure towards the bot side of the map because you usually will pick the Ornn to sort of neutralize the top lane matchup, right? And you know you're bleeding towards the top side of the map. And even though I praise Kreox a lot because I feel like mechanically he's an incredible jungler, I feel like he sort of went invisible on the map for a while there. There were not many things he could do. Bot lane got 2v2'd, top lane is getting 1v1'd. In the mid lane you have an Orianna, so technically it's not the best place for you to go and gang. And where he was looking for these 2v2s, because the Wukong had the extra assist and he had the extra gold, it just became very difficult for Kreox, being so mechanically gifted, to actually enter these fights and try to make the difference. When he did, it showed. He grabbed 1, 2, 3 kills, he got all these resets, but like it just wasn't enough because I felt like if this Lucian falls behind and the Twitch gets ahead, then your game becomes really difficult to play.
Right, a little bit of an uphill battle then from the beginning, and maybe don't start off downhill. That's kind of what I'm getting from there. Just try and make sure you get a little bit more even going forward and then allow your individual skill to shine through. But I think the best person to ask, actually, would probably be a member of the team that unfortunately lost this game. On the line, we should have Ericsson from Vanir. First of all, commiserations coming into this game. Let's talk a little bit about the difference that was made all the way through, though. The draft is where it started. Taking that Nami away from you, did that kind of change your perception going into it?
I mean, we definitely didn't expect them to go Nami on 1-2, but it wasn't really anything that I think punched us. I think Yuumi was a pretty good answer into it, and we just like matched scaling. We even outscale, but obviously the Twitch does outscale Lucian, so I guess they got that going for them. But I mean, no, I don't think Nami was the problem this game.
All right, so obviously I feel like it's absolutely fine to put whatever enchanter next to Lucian and Lucian can shine, right? I want to know, what do the comms sound like, especially when, bot lane's getting 2v2'd, your top lane's getting 1v1, so the only person who hasn't fallen on the map is you, so your jungler needs to play with somebody, right? So talk to me a little bit about the communication and the plan mid-game when everything is pretty much falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, in the mid-game, it was... I mean, the Darius was so far ahead, right? So what we would have wanted to do is like overload that size and just like shut him down. But I think there were just like some key moments where we didn't capitalize on them, just like making our own play. I think we just need to get better as a team on just like taking these small moments and like making this play that like we know, for example, like the Darius like in the game, we should be able to just like see the window and basically punish them. Like we know when the Darius has like flash ghost, he has no TP. We should be able to just like pull the trigger like as soon as we see it. Like obviously not everyone is gonna see it the same way. So it's like really important that someone from our team just steps up and makes that call, and like we're aligned to that call, so we can just win the game.
Sorry, Bryce, really quickly, I want to ask. We know that Kreox is usually very aggressive, but is he not the most vocal player that you have in the team to make these calls?
No, I mean, he's definitely vocal, but it's not always like, I guess, clear what we want to do as a team or like what he wants to do. But I mean, I think we just need to work on our decisiveness, stop being little business, and just get our S together, because it's kind of embarrassing going 0-2 this week, because I believe we can do great things with this roster. I believe like on a good day we can beat any team in the NLC, and I just want to really show it next week.
All right, awesome. Well, so kind of going forward into this now, obviously you've just talked about how you find yourself not in a great position, obviously moving forward, and you want to talk about the decisiveness. Is there anything else in that game, some of the games you've played, that you thought, hey, this is something we can definitely do better, or something that we've actually worked on and somehow haven't brought into the game?
I mean, I think it's basically just our team play. Like, sure, some individual mistakes will happen, but I think it's mostly just what game plan we have in the game, going from game to game. Like on Monday, we lost to the split push, but I think like next time around we'll do a lot better against it. Like we should for sure have won that game. And then today it was just like falling a bit behind in one of the side lanes, and not being able to punish hard enough on the other side of the map. And in team fights, just like seeing this TP window, stuff like this. So, I mean, I think it's just small things we have to work on and just like really like refine them, and I think we can be a great team.
Awesome. Very good to hear, and I look forward to seeing your progress and whether or not you can make those little tweaks to go for it. But I'll let you go now to
Also, sorry, I have one more thing. I have a shout out to someone special. My biggest fan, also my oldest fan, I believe, is my grandma. She's 78 years old today, so I just want to say, gratulerer med dagen!
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here onto this one. All right. Quickly, want to just kind of recap on that. With Goldberg, obviously, they're saying they're making little mistakes. They're not able to punish things when they should punish them here. Is this something that you think they have an ability to overcome in the rest of this split?
Oh yeah, for sure. But that also goes back to the other side of the coin where we were talking about Riddle, right? What happens when they're not the team with the winning draft? Well, that was Vanir kind of in this composition, but it was never that losing where it was like, oh, we can't win the game, right? They all had their tools that they needed to punish, and I think specifically a theme that's shown up was side lane, as he mentioned about Dusty, maybe as well in this game a little bit with the Darius 2 on the top side of the map. I definitely think there's already moments you can pinpoint, but as he's already saying himself, if we're all able to pinpoint these mistakes by just watching it, and it's not something deeper in your relation with your teammate or a teammate just not working out, well, then it's fixable, and then for sure something you can grab onto and just start working out.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, we'll have to see how they progress from that point then, and figure out if they can make any big changes that make little changes in the game. But while we have had some, it's time for a little bit of change on our standings board here as well. And as you can see, the symmetry slightly broken across it, but not too badly, because you've still got the 2 and 4, so it's all pretty good for this. But Riddle Esports, Trouble, they are obviously on the ascension here into this one and looking pretty good.
They're slowly but surely crawling themselves up towards this first spot. And again, looking at the Bifrost versus Excel game later on, does Bifrost win this? All 3 teams will have the same score, 4 and 2, which will mix up the leaderboard all that much more together.